Hello coaster lovers. So as an enthusiast, you will definitely complain about a roller coaster or a park. By the shortness of the track to the roughness, there is always something to complain about in the theme park industry. Out of my top 10, it looks a little weird, but recently I did some switching and this is my top 10. Instead of counting down the list, I'm going to pick one thing that I would change from each coaster to make it better. So if you're new here to Keen's Coasters and love roller coasters and rides, make sure to subscribe to the channel and smash the bell. We are like an inch away from 200 subscribers and it would mean the world to me if you subscribe. So at number 10, I have Montu at Busch Gardens, Tampa. So this place is at number 10, and this is a fantastic invert. If I had to change something about it, it would be the smoothing out the valleys, especially where the trim is before the Batwing, and in the valley in the Batwing. That can be pretty rattly, as well as changing the color scheme. I would change the colors from yellow back to the tan color like it originally had. Everything else I wouldn't change. On to the number 9 spot with Mystic Timbers. This one I feel like is pretty obvious, it's the shed, but personally, I would make that final turn a bit taller to fit in a drop track. That would be a first on a wooden coaster, but it may be a little unreliable, because how many wooden coasters have a drop track? Oh right, there are none. It would be stepping out of the comfort zone, but I would love seeing a drop track on a wooden coaster. Sticking with Rivertown, Diamondback is on number 8, and same thing as Mystic Timbers, the thing I would change is pretty obvious and it's similar to Montu, smoothing out the valley between the turnaround and the trimmed airtime hill. That is easily the worst part of the ride. It gives me a tiny headache every single time, but everything else doesn't change, it stays as it is. So let's go to Dollywood for Thunderhead, which is taking the number 7 spot in my top 10, and the version of it right now does not need to be touched, but maybe in a few years, it might be rougher than in 2023, so maybe some retracking here and there can spice up this fabulous GCI. Let's go back to Kings Island for the 287-foot monstrosity, Orion. The thing I would change about this ride is the length, maybe add something low to the ground like an overbank over the valley of the first drop, take some terrain to fit the track and connect it to the banked bunny hill into the brakes. That would actually make the ride feel complete. It's still a fantastic coaster, don't get me wrong, but it just feels a little incomplete. Alright, that feels complete is Lightning Rod at Dollywood, but I'm not going to include the lift hill in this part of the video because it's obvious. Besides that, I wouldn't change anything. The layout is top tier and the airtime is phenomenal, but it won't feel the same without that launch. Now we're back at Cedar Point for Millennium Force, and if you saw Airtime Thrill's video of how he would change his top 25, I would do the same thing. Replace the overbanks with some low to the ground turns. It would be a great way to show off that speed. Everything else I would keep, it stays as it is. And speaking of instruments at Cedar Point, that's going to lead to Maverick. I would change two things about this ride. One is the restraints. It'll be replaced with the restraints like on Velocicoaster, Taiga, and now Sky Rush. And the second thing is to bring back the Harlan Roll but make it a little longer than its predecessor. And as for the last two coasters, which are Iron Gwazi and Steel Vengeance, they do not need to be touched. Both of those rides are perfect. Maybe add a few elements on Iron Gwazi, but that's a bit of a stretch. And with Steel Vengeance, nothing. It's perfect, and that is why it's my number 1 roller coaster. So to hear from you guys, how would you change the coasters in your top 10 or top 15 and beyond? And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to smash the like button. There will be more creative videos like this coming soon at King's Coasters. And like always, make sure to keep that adrenaline pumping, and thanks for watching.